And good morning. Carlyn and I are so very excited to have all of you join us this morning. Just so you know, the session is being recorded. So if you don't want your face in a recording, feel free to turn your camera off. Not exactly sure, Carlyn, how that looks after the recording. Does it look just like our screen?
I don't remember which settings I have, but I
Okay.
typically tend to shrink it down to
Okay.
just what we're sharing,
Okay.
anyways, if I can edit it out.
Okay. But just so people know,
Yeah.
okay, I am so stoked for today. I'm really excited to be collaborating with Carlyn. Carlyn and I have, been in different collaborations over the last 8 to 10 months, and it has been a joy to follow Carlyn and see her program shift, and her messaging get really clear, and it really resonated with me last year, and I did some one-to-one coaching with her, and then I joined her program, and I really wanted to bring it to the Therabyte community because it has made such an impact on my ability to just kind of hone in and focus and gain confidence, and I really believe that wherever you're at in your entrepreneur journey, there's imposter syndrome or lack of confidence or fear, and there's always something to push through, and I think I can say that most of us are high achievers, that are in this room, and we can all use with a little bit more confidence. So I'm really excited, a little bit more about Carlyn. She is a Canadian OT, and she has worked in private practice for several years before launching Activate Vitality, her online program. And currently, her big focus is on empowering OT business owners to thrive without hustle and viewing them as whole occupational beings, not just businesses. She continues to have a part time mental health private practice. And yeah, that's my intro for Carlyn. So we're gonna have Carlyn take it away and share with us. The agenda today will be uh, Carlyn, and then her and I are going to chat a little bit. She's got some questions for me to share with all of you a bit about my experience in her program. And then we'll round it out with questions towards the end. Feel free, I will monitor the chat. So feel free to, put some questions in there. And depending on the flow of where things are at, we'll pull those questions forward or wait till the end. Does that sound good, Carlyn?
Yeah, that sounds great, and if
Okay.
there's anything that comes up in the chat that I don't notice, that feel free to
Yep.
interrupt me.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sounds
thank you.
good. All right. The floor is yours.
I appreciate you having me, and it's, really nice to it's funny because we learned in, business coaching, right, that sharing audiences is a good thing, but what the way I've learned, to run my business is that if I can be doing things that feel aligned with my values, with who I am, with how I want to show up in the world, then my business is going to be successful. And so, this sort of thing where you're collaborating with somebody who's like minded, to me, that's a values oriented, just enjoyable thing to do, regardless of that being sort of a smart strategic business move. Do you agree, Ashley? Like, I know.
I completely agree. When we had chatted about doing this and then, as it came closer and we were, collaborating on emails and how we were going to share with our audiences about this event, I was like, "Oh, this is so fun."
Mhm.
It's fun when business and marketing is fun.
Yeah, and really, like, we as OTs, we are givers. We love to just provide good value to people, and so being able to show up and talk about something that people come to us with, like, we kind of put our heads together and said, "Okay, well, what do we see most out there that we could help with? And how could we be helpful? And how could we be helpful to my people and to her people?" And we know lots of people are, kind of seeing they kind of say, like, in our audiences, but I think that seems weird. Like, it's our circles, right? Our circles of peers and other professionals that we connect with online, and so we thought, well, you know what? It's we see over and over again people who are just, like, almost ready to go, but then there's just that like I can't get out of the gates or I can't get to that next station in my business development. So we thought that that would be a great topic to talk about. Um, so I'm going to share with you a lot of the frame of reference that I use is based in acceptance and commitment therapy or ACT. I found it really a nice adjunct with my OT way of seeing the world. And I think we have people here, not just OTs, right? Ashley, do you have, I know you have more speech therapists and other therapists in your
Yeah, absolutely. My audience does consist of that. I haven't scrolled through to look exactly, but yes, definitely some SLPs in the audience. There could be some counselors, social workers as well. Yeah.
awesome. So if I end up defaulting to talking about OTs, it's mainly because that's what I end up talking about more in my audience. But these are all transferable skills and transferable concepts. They're pretty universal for people. But ultimately, as helpers, we run into certain obstacles on a regular basis. And so I'm going to share some of the tools I've learned from acceptance and commitment therapy, but also just other tools that I've learned along the way in my mental health private practice. I will tell you more about me later. So I find that therapists, we are driven to provide that high quality service. And I want us to do it without burning ourselves out. And so many of us, we're creative, we're impassioned, um, yeah, we can see how systems aren't working and we want to work in a better way. Many of us are headed for a private practice or have started a private practice because we see a better way to work, a better way to help, a better way to be. And try to not work with those productivity standards and high caseloads that many of our jobs have encouraged us to do. But we also tend to run into some obstacles as we try to head in this really good direction. So that fear of judgment, fear of failure, self doubt, imposter syndrome is one that comes up a lot. Perfectionism, overthinking, these are things I see a lot in anybody who's starting a business, but particularly with therapists, because um, you have to have a certain generous way of being. We give it all away. We do a lot of things for a lot of others. We're big thinkers. We're sensitive. We're kind, and sometimes that high achieving nature can tend toward perfectionism when the going gets tough. And when we're in that space, it's hard to do things that we're not already good at. And we're used to being good at what we do. And so to shift into this whole new world of starting your business or even growing your business, that can put us into a pattern of thinking and learning, preparing, and not doing. So I try to help people with the doing. So what we're going to cover is kind of why we get stuck, understand about fear of failure, imposter syndrome,
Oh,
professional.
hello, you are back. Oh, yeah, about that.
Got it. And I meant to make it automatic that people are muted coming in, but I've been clicking mute as we go. Um, how we can cut our fear in half, or big secrets that to finding that confidence to move forward, move into action, acceptance and commitment therapy concepts, so ACT concepts to help us get unstuck, and other things you might need along the way to help you keep moving forward into action. So I'd like to start with a little mindfulness practice if you would like to join me. I chose this image. It's a prickly thing that um, we can like, so it's not pleasant. Mindfulness isn't necessarily about relaxation and bringing calm. It's about being present with what is. And so the discomfort of growing into a private practice, figuring out all the systems and processes we need, how to do the EMR and the accreditation and the insurance stuff and all the things that are so overwhelming. They're prickly. They're like a prickly cactus sometimes, and that can be really exhausting. And so if you're trying to like push the prickly cactus away, you're gonna hurt yourself. You're squeezing it too hard. You're gonna hurt yourself. And so in being more mindful, we can try to hold it gently. And so that's symbolic. I'm not gonna tell you to go grab a cactus. But just trying to find a way that we can be present, be here in this present moment on purpose. and non-judgmentally. So grab something around you. So I'm gonna grab my lip balm and we're going to just observe it objectively, intentionally through our senses. We're not going to judge and go, oh, that's dirty, I should throw that out. No, it's just what is here. What do we notice? So see if you can notice maybe the texture of the thing that you've grabbed. Is it warm? Is it cool? Notice the temperature. Notice how does it reflect light? Is there any sparkle or do you notice any qualities of the color thing you're holding? Mine has writing on it. You can notice the different sizes of font. Some of it's rubbed off. I've never actually read this thing, and I've used it a few times a day since I had it. Oh, that's a judgment creeping in. Not really judgy, but just sort of that, that's an observation. Is there a smell to the thing that you grabbed? You close your eyes and smell. Do you notice anything different than when you're looking at it? You notice any sounds? Mine made a sound when I took the lid off and on, tapping it. If it's something you can taste, feel free to taste it. And what do you notice in those tastes? The texture on your mouth. Just observing. This is something we can do at any point in the day. We can do this with things in our physical environment. You can do this with your hand. You can do this while you're driving, just noticing everything around you through your senses. And the idea is that you're getting out of your thinking and worrying and thinking about the future and the past and just being there with what's there now. It could even be um, listening to the notes in the music, noticing if you can pick different instruments out in the music that you're listening to, noticing if you can notice people's faces on the street as you drive by. So many ways to bring ourselves into that present, observing, um, non-judgmental self. It's a really good skill to build because we can extend this also to noticing our thoughts and feelings when they come up, noticing when we are judging something, when we are giving ourselves a hard time, when our thoughts and feelings are getting in our way. We can pause and curiously observe them on purpose, being present with what is there, not why, not how, just what's there, just noticing it, naming it, paying attention to it. That can be a really, really powerful way um, of just managing the difficult stuff that comes up. So that's me. Ashley shared that I have a private practice here in Calgary. I have focused on mental health in my private practice. I transitioned in the last few years to focusing more on personal and professional development coaching for helping professionals. Most of my clients are OTs, though I certainly am always happy to work with other helping professionals. Um, I'm born and raised here in Calgary, and so I'm a hockey mom, I'm a traveler, I'm a potter, I'm a gardener. I really enjoy things that are a little bit unpredictable, that are a little bit mucky and sticky, and we figure things out as we go. With pottery, there are so many variables that we're working with. You're getting your hands dirty, and it sometimes has a mind of its own, and the places for things to go wrong. But there's a beauty in that spontaneity, and I find that with gardening too, and with traveling too. Hockey, as being a hockey mom, is just my kids love being a part of a team, and I love the community that comes with these other families that we've raised our kids all together and they've learned perseverance in challenge. They've learned to be good sports, to support each other, to do the right thing over um, a competitive thing. And I definitely appreciate that of about some of those things. So these are a few traits of mine that I wanted to share a little bit about me. So let's get into some of what, and I'm going to switch words between, like sort of anxiety, fear, self doubt. I look at a lot of those things as somewhat interchangeable. They're not exactly interchangeable, but a lot of these concepts apply to all of those things. And so some of the slides talk about it as fear, some of them talk about it as doubt, some of them talk about it as anxiety. Um, but as far as applying the ACT concepts, it works for all of them. And I see all of them when we're having those doubts about starting our business or growing our business. Um, they kind of are a fear response, even if it's maybe not feeling like fear, it's just feeling like something that you might call imposter syndrome. I don't tend to use that word. We're going to get into that in another slide. But we notice when we are having a fear response or anxiety or self doubt response, sometimes we have a sense of expectation. I shouldn't feel this way. It's not normal to feel free. I know better. I'm the only one. Everyone else is calm, and I'm the only one who's freaking out here. We often see avoidance. So people who are avoiding the things that make them uncomfortable, so that they can continue to feel good. Like we have a pleasure principle, right? We want to avoid discomfort naturally. It's part of our survival mechanism. But if we're avoiding moving toward an uncomfortable area of growth that we know is important to us, it's not very workable. It's not working for us. We also notice when fear comes up, lots of I can't handle all these feelings. I must eliminate them at all cost. Our nervous system says I might die. This is a sign. If I'm fearful, I shouldn't do this. And you need to kind of lean in and notice, is it really that you shouldn't do it? Or is it that you're having some doubt? And how can we manage that? We notice a lot of people get into numbing behaviors. So if we're feeling overwhelmed, how many of us pick up our phones and scroll, or veg out, watch some TV or social media, um, food as a numbing, also alcohol, gaming's a big one. Even even our Candy Crush or whatever game you might be playing on your phone. And I've met a lot of actually quite anxious folks who numb out with really loud music. That one's been an interesting one. Really, like almost putting their nervous system into shutdown, like loud, heavy metal music. Perhaps you don't do it quite that way, but think about what your numbing behaviors are, what your avoidances are, how you might be leaning into not feeling the feels. Oops. Um, then I also hear some sort of when then sort of thinking. So, well, when the fear is gone, and I'm feeling confident, then I can try the new thing. And that is where we see a lot of people get stuck. Okay, well, I've got to build some confidence and then go do the thing. Logical, but where the heck are you going to get the confidence from? So, thinking about that doubt, anxiety, fear, we know that we get some symptoms physical, cognitive, affective. So, fight, flight, freeze can be a physical. Nervous system is neurological, I suppose. But we feel that in our bodies. We notice poor focus, negative thinking. We can get really irritable and worrisome. Um, and this is a helpful thing for us. Like it's part of survival. These nervous systems were built for us living in different times where the dangers were actually threats to our survival, right? So if you were socially ousted by your clan or your tribe, you weren't safe. Like you might actually die. You depended on your community for survival. If you didn't notice the danger of the predator, um, you might die. So we have these nervous systems that are wired to really focus on the threats, and that's a little bit antiquated for our current way of living. Like we're having threats that are like, oh gosh, I might have embarrassed myself on a Facebook Live or I might have sent out an email that people might maybe they're going to judge. I made an error in it, and people are going to think I'm an idiot. Oh my goodness, what am I doing? And our nervous system goes into this like panic that's there to warn us that we're in danger. And it's a little bit like it doesn't understand the subtlety of you're actually not in danger. And so important to recognize that these mechanisms that come up have a purpose. They're a good thing. Um, we need to notice when we need to make different choices and not allow them to drive our actions. So it's normal for us to have these things. Um, and it's normal to have fear. It's normal to have doubt when we're trying new things. That's the way it's supposed to be. But our nervous systems are telling us that we're in big danger. So that's not very workable, right? Like that we have it limits us. So if we're listening to that nervous system response that's like, don't do the thing, don't grow the business, don't start the thing, um, because our nervous system's telling us that we're in danger, that really limits our world, right? We stay in our comfort zone. And you have to get uncomfortable. You have to get outside the comfort zone to do things like running a business, serving your clients the way you see as meaningful, the way with less, all of the reasons you want to start your private practice. Think about all the reasons you want to start your private practice. I'm sure most of them are not about making mega bucks. It's about being able to work in a way that is useful, that's effective, that isn't burning you out, that allows you some autonomy. And to do that, we have to get out of our comfort zone. And our nervous system is going to tell us that we're in danger and we need to manage that. So we're going to focus on how we get into that.
Carlyn, before you keep going, Mallory had a really great comment in the
Yeah,
chats, and I think this would be a great time to mention
sure.
it. She said right before this meeting, she was feeling really overwhelmed and anxious and listening to really loud EDM music. I'm not
Right.
actually sure what EDM is, but
Yeah.
I never thought about it as numbing or avoidance. For me, it helps me feel and get motivated to work. It is almost a release. Do you have any
Oh,
insight for how
interesting.
we discriminate between using something like this as a tool versus numbing or avoiding behavior?
I mean, if you go and do the thing after, then maybe it's energizing for you. Like it sounds like maybe it's kind of activating in a useful way. If you're doing it, so if you're feeling overwhelmed and you do the thing that kind of goes, okay, like I don't have to feel that anymore. Like I'm gonna stay here or kind of continue with more numbing and avoidance. Well, maybe yeah, it's numbing and avoidance, but if it's actually using it as a tool that's intentionally moving you toward action, great. I think that is a difference to notice. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, even meditating can be an avoidance, right? Like there's so many good things that depending why we're doing it, um, it's like even positive thinking is listed as an avoidance behavior, that we're trying to deny the difficult feeling or experience by thinking positive, by talking ourselves out of the experiences we're having. That can be avoidance. Not to say that positive thinking is always a bad thing. But if you're using it as a way of avoiding the difficult feeling that's inevitable that comes up when you're trying to do something that's new or challenging, yeah, it comes down to the why. So we've talked about these things a fair bit already, waiting for the right time, comparison, confirmation bias. I hear this a lot. Oh my gosh, look at so and so out there. They're doing this thing. And I experience it too. Like somebody talks about something that I talk about all the time. And I'm like, "Oh, no, like they talked about that better. Who cares? These are good things. I didn't invent it. Like, or looking for reasons that prove that our own self judgment, see, I shouldn't do this thing, right? I'm never going to be as good as so and so. um, no problem, Mallory. Highly detailed planning. I see a lot of planning as crafty avoidance. People going, okay, well, I just need to take 5 more certifications and then I'm going to have the confidence to go and start my business. That might be avoidance. Not to say you shouldn't take certifications that are helpful. Education is awesome. I love education. Sometimes, if the motive behind it is to not do the thing yet, um, Hmm. If we're doing it because we think we're gonna feel more confident, the only thing that's gonna make you feel more confident about doing the thing is doing the thing, and that's a hard one to swallow. So I call that productive procrastination. I'm not good enough thinking. We all have that. Who am I to talk to you guys about feeling anxious or not doing the thing when I feel anxious doing things that are new? When I feel anxious, when I avoid sending out an email because nobody read my last one, oh my gosh, what are they thinking about? Like, who am I to talk to you guys about this, right? I can get into that pattern of thinking. Um, and I've also learned that that's normal. Like I've kind of stopped seeing that as a thing that should means I shouldn't. Um, I can name it and still not do it. But it's a I'm not good enough thinking. We're all prone to it. Just going to mute for so noticing how fear might be impacting your business. ACT has this is kind of a workability exercise. So is continuing like if you're noticing avoidance behaviors or any of these behaviors that you're doing, how workable is that for you? So thinking about that step you're stuck on with your business. Are you noticing distraction, things you're doing for distraction? What do you do to distract yourself or take your mind off of painful thoughts and feelings? Could be books, computer games, exercise, gardening, gambling, food, drugs, alcohol. Oh, notice what things you might be doing um, when you're feeling stuck at this station in your business development, opting out, what's important, figuring out what's important, meaningful, or life enhancing activities. Oh, sorry, opting out of important, meaningful, or life enhancing activities, events, tasks, challenges, or people. Thinking strategies. So I talked about earlier that even positive thinking can be an avoidance. So, how do you try, consciously or not, to think your way out of pain, discomfort? Worry, imagining escape or revenge, thinking it's not fair, if only I had this, if only I had that, if only all of those types of thinking things can be kind of keeping us in this pattern of thinking, not doing. Talking logically and rationally to ourselves when we're having big feelings, positive thinking, positive affirmations, judging, criticizing. The list goes on. And some people engage with some substances when the difficult feelings of moving forward with their businesses come up. Um, Things you put in your body to try and avoid or get rid of anxiety, foods, drinks, cigarettes, recreational drugs, herbal remedies, any other strategies to eliminate anxiety. Maybe it's yoga, meditation. For some, it's aggressive behavior, arguing. Some, it's Tai Chi or exercise. We're doing these things to push off the anxiety that's coming up when we're trying to do an uncomfortable thing. We're not doing the thing. We're pushing away the difficult feeling. We're focused on stuck in a pattern of doing things that is about pushing away a feeling. When really, if we move forward and do the things, we're likely to get to the other side of that and feel less anxiety. So, not to say any of those things are bad. I do lots of those things. But noticing when that comes up, is that workable for you at this point? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's okay, I just need to sit down and write the damn email. And maybe kind of sitting down and doing a meditation first isn't really what the thing I need to do here. I don't know. Maybe it is. Is that workable or not workable for you in that state? Noticing those things is important. So, do any of these things rid you of your unwanted thoughts and feelings so that they never come back? Probably not. How many give you some short term relief but keep you stuck in inaction or make your life a little bit worse in the long run? Some are helpful if used flexibly, moderately, and sensibly. But when you over rely on these methods, excessively, rigidly, or inappropriately, what have they cost you in terms of health, money, wasted time, relationships, missed opportunities, or emotional pain? Just notice. Is that workable? And if it's not, well, what's another way? So we kind of double down when fear, anxiety, doubt comes up. We've got sort of that primary response, oh no. And then we've got the secondary response. Oh, I shouldn't be thinking this way, God. Like, why? Why? Why does this always happen? Why am I doing you should know better. You should just move on with it. And having this kind of fight against the natural response is where we double our suffering. So they kind of say like anxiety plus resistance equals suffering. We resist the natural human response that comes up when we're growing and expanding and doing something new that makes us uncomfortable. We're essentially doubling the size of the problem. Does that kind of make sense? It's a weird way to look at things. Yeah. So, this is where we have some power to perhaps cut our response in half. So, can we change how we relate to the primary thing that comes up? The thing that comes up, oh gosh, like I'm really nervous to do this launch. I'm really nervous to, kind of put up my website. And yeah, like, can we just leave it at that rather than having this spiral of judging the whole thing? Basically changing how we relate to this natural occurrence. So we're going to get into our 4 big secrets here. Big secret number 1 is that fear is not the enemy, avoidance is. So again, that anxiety, fear, doubt that I'm kind of lumping together is a normal part of the human experience. Our nervous system, again, is designed to keep us safe and inside our comfort zone. Everybody stays comfortable, nobody gets hurt. Stretching our comfort zone leads to feelings of anxiety, fear, doubt. Our nervous system turns on and says, you're in danger, you're in danger, you're in danger. 95% of the time, you're not in danger. I made that number up. I don't know how many times, what percentage of the time. Depends what your lifestyle is, perhaps. But most of the time, we're not in danger, yet we are driven. Our behavior is kind of attending to that feeling or thought that comes up that we should avoid. So our nervous system says avoid, therefore we avoid. And that's where stuck happens. So avoidance of new experiences limits our ability to get to those things that are more fulfilling, rewarding, those really, really important reasons that you're wanting to start this business or expand this business to help people. So anxiety, fear, doubt, they lose power when you continue to move forward toward the thing, even when the fear and self-doubt arise. Big secret number 2, confidence never precedes action. So this ties back to that. Okay, well, I'm going to build confidence. Like I can't do the thing because I'm not confident about it yet. So I'm going to build the confidence. Then I'm going to go do the thing. And it just doesn't work that way. Like you shouldn't feel confident about something you've never done before. Like that would be kind of weird. You build confidence by doing something over and over and over and over, getting better at it with time and messing it up sometimes. Confidence is doing, improving, not subtracting. Doing that's supposed to be a plus. Do plus improve plus do plus improve plus do plus improve, and so on. That's where we get confident. Self-doubt is normal. It's important. It keeps us in check. It keeps us in a bit of a quality control. It keeps us wanting to do a good job. Keeps us wanting to check things out and improve. That's useful when we're kind of stuck in a loop of perfecting. That's not so useful. And that's where we bring in a growth mindset, which I'm going to, in the next slide, talk to you a little bit about the difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset. So the definitions I find on growth mindset, I don't love them all, but I think the examples really kind of illustrate the point really well. So fixed mindset kind of says things are static, right? Like that I have these skills and weaknesses and they just are what they are. And in a growth mindset, we're like, hey, I can develop, I can grow, I can learn. Most of us are pretty good at understanding we can learn, like that we can develop skills. If we're in this profession, this is what we help people do, right? When we're in a fixed mindset, well, we're more concerned with how people judge us. Whereas in a growth mindset, we're like actually really interested in learning. In a fixed mindset, we're avoiding challenge because, gosh, like I'm going to look bad. I'm not good at that. I can't go do something I'm not good at. And in a growth mindset, we're like, all right, like bring it. I'd like to learn this thing. And we're open to knowing that we don't know how to do it. And that's actually why we want to do it, not the reason we shouldn't do it. In a fixed mindset, we're more likely to give up easily. Whereas with a growth mindset, we're more likely to persist when things get hard. I have a friend whose husband is a physician who never learned how to skate. And as a child, he never learned how to skate because he wasn't good at skating. And he was kind of stuck in this perfectionistic way of being that, well, why would I do something that I'm not good at? And he learned how to skate as an adult, actually. He's a super awesome hockey dad now, too, which is fun. But yeah, that's kind of that fixed sense of, well, oof, probably put on some skates once and I sucked. So clearly I shouldn't do that. That's a fixed mindset. Ignorers in a fixed mindset, we might ignore or really like not want to hear constructive negative feedback. Whereas in a growth mindset, we're more likely to go, okay, like I need to learn from this. It might be hard. Not to say that if you have uncomfortable feelings with criticism or constructive feedback that you don't have a growth mindset, but if you actually still are seeking it and leaning into it, you're kind of like, this is how I learn, by hearing the feedback from people. In a fixed mindset, failing is showing me the limit of my abilities. Whereas in a growth mindset, we're kind of going failure as an opportunity to grow. Um, and I'm going to stop reading the slide. I think that kind of illustrates the point. So we can move a hell ahead. So embracing that growth mindset is important. You can learn that. You can have a growth mindset about growth mindset. Carol Dweck has a really great TED talk on it. Actually, DWECK. If you put in Carol Dweck growth mindset, she's got to find one of her videos. It's really good. It's like 15, 20 minutes. Big secret number 3 is that imposter syndrome is pathologized doubt. So we've taken this term and applied it to a normal human experience. You're trying something new, you have some self doubt. Your nervous system is like, hey, you're leaving the comfort zone, like, and it sends us all sorts of thoughts, like not just feelings, but thoughts like, oh, don't do that. You're going to be embarrassed. What are they going to think? You shouldn't do that. You should stay in your lane. So that's normal. And so using a term, imposter syndrome, kind of bugs me because imposter is a person who pretends to be somebody else in order to deceive others, especially for fraudulent gain. Any of you doing what you're trying to do for fraudulent gain and deception? No, I'm sure you're not. Syndrome is a group of signs or symptoms that occur together and characterize a particular abnormality or condition. Having self doubt when you're trying something new, not abnormal. So, to kind of put this together in imposter syndrome, we're pathologizing a really natural, normal human experience and saying, see, there's something wrong with me. I'm having doubt about trying something new. And I'm going to lean a little bit into feminism here for a moment. Bear with me. I I could speak a lot more boldly, but I'll be gentle. This term, when you read about it, two male psychologists in the 1970s observed that high achieving women demonstrated more self doubt than their male counterparts, and they came up with this term imposters. Think about the climate of the women in the high achieving women in the workplace. Like my grandmother was a scientist. She had a master's degree in microbiology. She got in this 1960. Um, she she had a lot of difficulty in the workplace. That was 10 years before. But like it was unheard of for a woman to be doing the things that she was doing at that time. And so I would imagine that was hard some days. I bet you there was some self-doubt. But for some people to come along and like use a term that we're still using today to tell us there's something wrong with us when we're having self-doubt, leaning a little bit into self-compassion. If we can kind of go, ooh, that stings. Like, I don't want to use that language anymore. Maybe I'm not going to label my doubt, my natural, normal doubt, with this term that these dudes called these women in the 1970s when they naturally had self-doubt. We can kind of claim our power a little bit with language. Just 2 kegels for pelvic floor therapy. I'm reading these comments. I love them. Yes. So Kristen Neff has a really great book called Fierce Self-Compassion. So we think about self-compassion more as that nurturing, kind, gentle self-compassion. But there's this other side that's kind of yin and yang energy. And the other side is more activism, activated, protective, like the mama bear. That's like, hold up, wait a minute. We need to make some change here. And I'm kind of bringing a little bit of that fierceness here in not claiming the term imposter syndrome. If it's empowering to you to use the language, I say you use it. You don't have to bring this about. But I just want you to pause and think about it the next time it rolls off your tongue. I think my heart rate just went up. Okay, big secret number 4, self-doubt. You're not gonna, like, just kinda get to the other side and be like, "Oh, now I've arrived at this place of confidence in my business, and I can just keep growing it and feel confident every day." No. Ashley, do you have any self-doubt? Little bit. I have self-doubt every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And learning to just kinda know that you get better at playing the game. You get better at knowing that that's part of the game, that there are trade-offs that you're like, "Okay, well, to work in this way that is really meaningful for me, that I can have the impact I wanna have, help the people in the way I wanna help them, the way they deserve to be helped, in a way that doesn't burn me out." That's powerful. That's a really important why. Um, and to do so, I have to get out of my comfort zone every day. And we start to learn that it just doesn't need to get in the way of all of your actions. Um, it it can come. You can notice it. I think about it as like something you can say, "Oh, hello, there's doubt. Yep, here you are," because I'm growing, and it's sort of a little bit of a harbinger or a signpost that's like, "Yep, growing, happening," because my mind is telling me all the reasons I shouldn't do this. You don't have to buy into that. Your mind's being crafty and creative at telling you why you shouldn't move forward. So the big difference is we stop seeing it as a sign to put the brakes on and have learned to keep going when it shows up or pause momentarily. Maybe a week or two. I sometimes pause, depending on how big it is, but still move forward. So some mindset shifts that can help us along the way, understanding. So the idea is that we're shifting from these thoughts and feelings that are gonna come up as we're stretching, that to believe them and lean into like, we wanna kind of switch away from those determining our behavior, those determining our action. They can come, and we can still choose our action. So we need to understand that our minds are protective. They get creative at trying to keep us safely static, homeostasis. Um, we need to embrace self-compassion, not beat ourselves up for being human or pathologizing or natural human responses. Validate, oh, right, like I'm feeling nervous because I'm doing something that's vulnerable. Like breathe into it, validate, be kind to it. Stay flexible. Life is an exciting adventure, not a rigid plan. So lean into new experiences, kind of embrace that growth mindset. Other things you can do is unhook. So when you have an urge to avoid, notice yourself going, ooh, maybe I'm not going to launch that thing until next month or next season because I should go do these 3 more courses and certifications. I mean, I sell a course by all means. Do some courses, like it's all good. But notice if why am I doing that? Am I doing this to propel my action or am I doing this to keep myself from action? So turn toward the difficult experience. Notice your why. What's this big power? Why are you doing this? Why are you starting this thing? Why are you expanding this thing? Why are you taking this risk? There are very powerful whys in there that likely go beyond money. But even with money involved, like what can this money do for you? What can this way of earning money differently do for your lifestyle, for your stress level? What can it do for your energy to show up for your clients? And do what matters. Take the action. Confidence comes after doing, not before the action. So do a thing, like tiny step even. I have a really complicated diagram. Um, I tend to roll out more gradually, but here we're just gonna lay it all out here. This is ACT and kind of um, how ACT is embedded in my Activate Vitality program. So I have a program where I support OTs in thriving without the hustle, moving forward, moving toward living the way they want to be living, showing up the way they want to show up. And so a lot of these concepts are ACT, and some of them are some extra things I put in there. But this idea that you're this person driving your boat and you're driving this boat, that's your one precious life, and you have choices. You can move in the direction of your values, which is this values lighthouse, Our values were living life fully, behaving effectively, showing up the way we want to show up in our lives. So, as the captain of your boat, of your one precious life, you can be moving in that direction, even slowly, gradually. Or sometimes we get hooked and we're moving away. So, we can get hooked by difficult thoughts, feelings, responses, judgments, experiences. They can hook us into moving away. And so, where we work on things is in this unhooking. We're making room for the difficult experiences. We're not fighting against them. We're defusing. So, we're being less fused to them, leaning into them a little bit. We're observing them curiously. So, up here in I think it's called an eagle's nest, is your observing self, that part of you who can a little bit more objectively observe the situation, observe you driving over in this way or driving over in that way, or getting hooked or unhooking and moving toward. This is that sort of the more true you who can observe you in all of your experiences. Be here now, that's kind of present moment awareness. And in this, we're using a lot of gratitude, soulful self compassion, growth mindset. We're building routines and habits because really it's the actions that help us manage the difficult experiences. If you can, in the presence of self doubt and fear, still take a couple baby steps, well, it loses its power. It's a little bit less wind in your sails that are hooking you away, if you can just do the thing. So I love helping visionary therapists, people who are frozen by self doubt, fear of failure, perfectionism, turn from avoidance and inaction toward trailblazing so that they can work and live with authenticity, fulfillment, and vitality. There's a quote that success is Winston Churchill, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. I think of that sense of being more in the journey, like just sort of embracing that these steps are the journey. They are like we're not kind of living toward just getting to this place where we've arrived. We're kind of just managing the journey. It's every day's a new challenge. You get to that next station in your business, you're working on another thing. So being able to embrace that journey of growth and change is a really important thing we do. That's the end of my slides. I see a couple questions. Ashley, did you want to chat a little bit before the questions? I haven't read them all. What do you suggest?
We could go into the questions if you wanted to unmute yourself, and I think it's a question.
Sure. So for Carolyn, you were explaining what the whys for your business, and I thought it was really nice what you were talking about. I think you were talking about it's not only the money, but it's also, to hustle without you had pointed some things out. And I just wanted to note them down.
Oh,
I think
sure.
it just came out naturally, but I thought they were really good points.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So for me, a lot of the whys were that I needed to be working in a way, like when I first started my private practice, it was that, that there was inflexibility in my job. I had high caseloads with redundant
Mhm.
paperwork.
Yeah.
I was really limited in the scope I could help people in. And so
Mhm.
working privately, I was allowed to help people in a way that was meaningful and authentic. I could do
Mhm.
so with smaller caseloads. I could charge a little bit more than certainly charge like the way you set your building up, right? We have so many non-billable hours in our work.
Yeah.
So, but I could work flexibly. I could volunteer at my kids' school and I could be
Mhm.
off on the days they were off. And
Right.
there's so many powerful whys. So figuring out what your whys are, it's often like kind of working in a way that's more autonomous, that's more effective, that's more aligned with your values, but also
Mhm.
doing it in a way that doesn't burn you out. Many of us are doing it for those reasons.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And then do you
Uh,
want to get into explaining your question? Or I can read it.
She's just unmuting.
You want me to reword it? Um, yeah, I guess it's easy I guess I tend to hear, well, then just go do it. But I wonder, there must be some utility around the doubts or the questions that we have, or
Yeah.
the anxiety that's not necessarily just a fear response, but more thinking pragmatically or
Yeah.
And I don't know if
And
that's just me and my logical mind justifying the way I'm already thinking, but
I think
how do you?
but kind of both can be true. It depends on how workable it is. And so if if needing to figure it all out before taking any steps becomes unworkable for you, for instance, I'm not saying that's what you're doing. But it could be that the pragmatics of no, but I have to have my website, my letterhead, my logo, my EMR, my like every single thing before I even speak to a soul about my business, for instance. That can be a place that I see people get a little bit stuck. Well, is that workable? Like sometimes it's good to just start to take some of those steps. And very often we can't see the answer to some of those subsequent steps until we get a little further around the corner. And so figuring out, okay, well, which of those are essential? Which of those things does it like? So I'm thinking about Ashley's Therabyte. Like I didn't mean to say like, oh my gosh, a person shouldn't choose an EMR before they take any moves. But hey, you can actually start talking about your idea with your colleagues. Start feeling things out with people. Maybe you do want to get that piece and you can get a website set up and a billing system set up and then figure out maybe a more detailed, polished mission statement later once you've seen a few clients. I feel like so many of these things, if we go in with a growth mindset where we can take some steps and allow them to be a little bit rough and grow into them, we can polish something that's more effective than what we might have predetermined before getting into action. So I think pragmatics, it could go either way depending on how workable it is for you. And so I encourage people to notice when maybe they've been not in action for a long time and has that ceased to be workable and what might be a towards move or a step in the direction of the thing they want to do that is manageable. That make sense?
Thank you. Yep. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I just want to thank you so much, Carlyn, for sharing all of that. It's such a great reminder going through those secrets and really just remembering and noticing self-doubt is normal. I think that's that's one that really stuck out to me that last week I was feeling some self-doubt and I was actually able to step back and go, "Oh, it's because I keep doing new things." Sometimes there can be this feeling of, "Oh my goodness, why am I here again? Why am I feeling this?" It's like, "Oh, because I'm trying to reach another level again."
Yes. And that's
But
something
that
we've talked about in the program a few times. There's a diagram. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but like from looking at a circle from the top and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm here again. What the heck? What the heck? I'm here again. But then you turn it on its side and it's actually an upward spiral that you're like,
right.
oh, you reached a new station, a new thing. And yep, oh, there's the self-doubt again. There's some of the same old stories. They come up as you expand into a new thing. Yes, I love that.
Yeah, and then it's looking at that self-doubt as a signal
Yeah.
and like not it's not a sign to stop. It's a sign you're growing. It's a sign keep going. Maybe then you're looking at, okay, is there a towards move that I can make or do I need to have some self-compassion or what can I let go of, right? And then it just becomes more an analysis of how you can move forward rather than a place where I got stuck on the weekend, which was comparing myself to other people and then that just starts this like whole other self-doubt that really moves you in the other direction. And then it's like, nope. Got to get off that crazy train because that leads to inaction. That leads to not fulfilling your why. And in this experience I had on the weekend, Mike and I then had this amazing planning session the last 2 days where we were really looking at our why and redefining the values of our business. And I was like, oh, there it is. Like, there's my power again when I was able to reconnect with the why and the values. And I was like, right, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I'm, trying to step up one more level. And then, and now I'm going back and going, okay, looking at what happened, that self doubt, then the comparison. Okay, how can I guard against that? It's going to come back. right? And so not sitting in the disillusionment that you're over it, but
Yeah.
knowing that, okay, this has happened before, it's going to happen again, but what are my safeties that I'm going to put in place to help me recognize it and move towards, like reconnect with your why and reconnect with values and then move towards.
Oh, there's so many good things in there. Yes. I think you get to a place where you build resilience, right? You just start to learn that, right, this discomfort comes up and things still work out. That
Yeah.
came up when I did this, it came up when I did this. Remember when that was terrible? And you start to learn that if you move forward, stuff works out. If you stay in a cycle of inaction, you don't grow those muscles. You actually reinforce avoidance, which reinforces that anxiety cycle. Yeah. And you're so good at bringing to the group really honestly and authentically and vulnerably. And something that I learned in ACT is this idea of two mountains, that you're climbing up your mountain and encountering the obstacles along the way. And I'm climbing up my mountain, and the other people are climbing up their mountains as well in the group. And we can see things on your mountain that you can't see because they're a little ahead of you, or they're that you've just passed, or what's around the corner. We can see that from our perspective, and you can't see it from where you stand. And
Mm.
you're really good at bringing those things really authentically to the group, and other people kind of saying, "Oh, have you looked at this? Or what about that? Or, hey, I see another next step. Have you thought about this? Or why don't you do this and get back to me?" Accountability. But you've done a really good job of that and being that support to others in the program too.
Thanks, Carlyn. Yeah, really just that. Yeah, I think of Brené Brown and when she talks about shame gremlins and how they really get more at us when we are isolated, and they keep us isolated and they keep us from community.
Yeah.
And when we bring those things forward, then we bring them to community, then that we can allow that big spotlight to shine on them, and for that ability to not sit in the shame and start making those towards moves. Yeah, I love that. I love that
Yeah.
concept.
Shame loses its power when we air it
Right.
out and
Yeah.
share it. Yeah. And then you learn that 5 other people in the room are like, "Oh, yeah, I got that too." Or even if they don't say so, it frees them when it comes up for them next time
Mhm.
because they heard you share it. Yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, I are there any other questions or comments that, or if you wanna highlight something that you really took out of, Carlyn's presentation today, or if you have any questions about Carlyn and her program?
You are welcome to unmute if you're busy typing a long question.
Yes, I love visual the sailboat
I know, I
because
need
we
to bring
talk
it
about that
down.
so much in business, right? Like, who's on your boat?
Yeah,
Where's your boat
totally.
going?
Totally. I'm a bit stuck in the dichotomy of recognizing that action breeds confidence while also presenting myself as a competent coach to help my clients. Any thoughts? I found that actually owning sort of um that sort of beta kind of learner's attitude, learner's mindset, that sense of, okay, hey, like I am actually super experienced in this field. I'm kind of new at doing this as a business. So I'm actually really nervously presenting my first Facebook Live. Or I'm going to lean into, I'm not sure about actually this whole email. I messed up the email sequence. Ah, shoot. Yeah. I'm just figuring this part out. It's not to say I don't have good clinical skills, but being able to actually just admit that some of these bits are fumbly because I'm actually building a service for these really important reasons, so that I can bring these clinical skills to people who are who are in need of it. But I find kind of just giving air to it and admitting that this part is new. This business is new. I'm not a new clinician, but I'm new at this business thing. So I might mess things up a little bit. And that can be so freeing if we actually just say it. And then people tend to say really nice things to you if you just admit it. But kind of holding up a facade is exhausting. Definition of imposter syndrome is enlightening. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad.
I also wanted to say to that, Mallory, I think back, as a new clinician, it's like yeah, I mean, if I were to work with those same people, I would approach things in a completely different way, and that's okay,
Mhm.
you know? Just that we all bring something to the table, and when you know better, you do better, and, like, it'll be okay, like, it all just kind of works out, and you're bringing something to your clients that is unique and wonderful for them.
Yeah. We weren't born with these skills. We learned them along the way. We're getting better at them as we go. I'm glad that was helpful. Well, I so appreciate you bringing us together here, Ashley. Thank you so much. Thank
Oh,
you all
thank
for
you.
attending.
Yeah, what a great way to I was gonna say start a Monday. It's not Monday, it's Wednesday. What a great midweek, rollout, and just thank you so much for those awesome reminders. I don't get tired of being reminded of those things because they do keep coming up, and
Mm.
to yeah, just I wrote down a couple of them that I am going to plaster on my wall because I need to read them, I think, every day. Self-doubt is normal. Remember your why. Confidence comes after the action. I think sometimes I'm the one who's like, let's do this. And then I'm halfway through and I'm going, oh, I actually don't know how to do all of those. Like I did a
Oh.
Facebook Live and completely I don't know if I don't think anyone's here that was there. Oh, I, like, completely fell flat on my face because I was like, "I got this." I did not have it. It was like, I couldn't even get it going. I got, like, totally lost. My anxiety flew super high. But you know what? I learned a lot,
You did.
and everyone was, so gracious there, and I that's another thing that's so wonderful about working with helping professionals is we're often a very compassionate group. We can be super hard on ourselves, but we're quite compassionate towards each other.
It is true. And if we kinda give people, like, enough information to show us the compassion we need in that moment to be like, "Oh my gosh, this is a little
Yeah,
bit embarrassing."
yeah,
Other people will be like, "It's alright. Like, keep going. You got this. Okay.
yep,
You know what? I'm just gonna restart. I'm gonna take 5
yep.
breaths and try again."
I
And
did that. I was like, okay, everybody, I just need a minute.
yeah,
Like, I'm just gonna breathe a couple times and then I'm gonna
I
try
tend to
again.
that's why I insert a mindfulness activity usually in the beginning
Uh,
of
that's such a great
they said that's
idea.
for me.
Yeah.
Grounding.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining. If you have any follow-up questions, I'll be sending out an email with the replay ways you can connect with Carlyn. I know she did also put in the chat as well, ways that you connect with her, a few of her links.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.